You're listening to Two Girls, One Crossword.
Okay, what a way to start the year, folks. Truly, what an incredible way to start the year. I can't even.
Just fess up to your mistakes.
I refuse to take ownership.
It's on me too, because I see when the Zoom's recording and I didn't catch it either. Basically, we just had some technical issues where some of us weren't recording and we had to scrap the whole thing. Yeah.
So we only got like 15 minutes in, but it's always hard to get those jokes back. So, because we're hilarious. As all of our listeners know, we are hilarious people. And we just flow naturally. But sometimes when you catch yourself and you're like, damn, I got to start recording again, everything starts falling a little flatter the second time around.
Yeah, you try and do the same joke. It just does not work.
It doesn't.
So, think all new jokes.
Okay.
Refresh.
Okay.
Well, we should, this isn't really a joke. We could wish everyone a happy new year. We're happy to be back from our break. I hope everyone had a good end of year last year and a good beginning to 2022. We've had a great beginning to 2022.
Yes, we did.
If this is any indication. Actually, Chelsea and I did have a good New Year's Eve.
We did. We hung out together with our friends.
We forced everyone to watch Twilight.
Yes.
3 Twilight movies.
Yes. I just loved how much Hannah was invested in the watching.
She kept putting it on. Everyone's like, no, we don't want to watch Twilight. And then it's on, and their eyes are glued to the screen.
They literally cannot stop watching it. And that's just what Twilight is.
Well, this is a funny anecdote about what our friends think about us. We stayed at Airbnb. There's only like 5 of us there. It was not a huge party. And
it's
we
our
all,
bubble.
Tested before and everything. Yeah. There was a hot tub at the Airbnb. And Chelsea, are idiots talking in the group chat about how everyone, bring your bathing suit. There's a hot tub. We get there. We're like, okay, it's hot tub time. Everyone's like, oh, I'm not going in.
They all looked at us like we had 7 heads. I was like, okay, why are you even here then?
So
we're here for the hot tub. And you guys basically came to laugh at us. You came to stand and laugh at us as we got in the hot tub. Okay?
It's embarrassing for me because I was in the group chat like reminding everyone to bring their bathing suits.
Yeah, no, that was
no one
pretty
even
embarrassing.
cared.
It's crazy.
Anyway, so that's our new year.
New year, new me, but I will always love a hot tub.
Always. We love a hot tub.
We do.
And love this podcast.
We love this podcast.
Which is Two Girls, One Crossword.
Yes.
I'm Grace Topinka.
And I'm Chelsea Rowan. This is your favorite weekly Podword Crosscast. We're back for our first episode of 2022. We're keeping it optimistic.
That's
right.
Us. Positive.
We're always positive and happy.
Calm.
And I've never been angry a day in my life. Especially not in the new year. New year, new me.
We do have a kind of a packed episode.
Yes.
So maybe this is like a blessing in disguise because we were
gotta
talking
get to
a lot before and it's like we got things to do because we got to do recap. Chelsea went through the trouble of putting together a very intricate poll for Poll-a-palooza on Twitter where she grabbed an episode title from every month, her favorite one, and then had our Twitter followers vote on which one they like best.
Yes.
I compiled all of the results and we'll go through them.
She did her little like math, like accounting math brain stuff.
Yes.
I texted her, I was like, if I ran this poll, will you do the math? You're like, okay.
It's really not that difficult.
She says,
but I guess I also use Excel every day. So
yeah, I dare you to spell, I don't know, restaurant in one try. Do it.
No, I'm not going to embarrass myself on here. No, I think Restaurant.
No, there's an R-A-U.
I said R-A-U.
No.
Restaurant. Oh, the end. Can we cut that out?
No.
All right.
Go. I was just demonstrating to everybody that you may be able to do your funny little math magic, but I can spell restaurant in one try. So.
Well, I feel like you've been practicing that. But anyways, let's get back to our poll results because these we were talking about how fun some of these episode titles are and how complicated it can be sometimes to find an episode title that encompasses both topics without giving the topics away. And I want to give a shout out to idioms.com for helping me so much.
Please sponsor us. And I will give a shout out to Grace for being so imaginative because the titles perfectly encompass the episode, but they also perfectly confuse. So it's the best of both worlds.
Chelsea brought up how our SEO is probably so messed up because we don't talk about any topics in the description, in the title. So we're going to look into maybe making tags, but everyone has to promise that they won't read the tags before listening to the episode, because then that ruins the whole surprise. That isn't really even that big of a surprise, but
just
to us.
Stick with us. Be loyal to us. That's
Remember who brought you here. Okay. In first place, we have Unauthorized Boners.
Of course.
Which was about Oedipus and dolphins on LSD with 22%. And I knew that one was going to be first because anytime we have anything mildly like sexual in a title, it gets the most listens.
Y'all are wild.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on with you guys.
Go to church or something. Take me to church.
Okay. In second place with 19%, we have Let Them Eat, brackets, imaginary cake. And I thought that was pretty good. That was good. About mimes and Versailles.
Of course.
In third place, we had Birds of a Feather Clock Together.
Love it.
And that was a topic about Aesop's Fable and Daylight Saving Time. Aesop's Fables and Daylight Saving Times. You had me not saying any plurals because I'm too scared to say Daylight Saving Time wrong. In fourth place with 14%, we had a Canadian, an American, and an Irishman walk into a bar. And that was about pumpkin carving, which started in Ireland, and NORAD, which involves Americans and Canadians.
Seriously, if you don't know that strictly from the title, then okay, your loss, not ours.
Yeah, we can't help you. In fifth place with 8%, we had Nearest and Dearest, but Nearest was spelled Knearest, and Dearest was spelled Deerest, and that was about knitting and Bambi.
Obviously.
And then in sixth place, this was my favorite, with 6%, was Frank and Steins. And it was about Lisa Frank and Oktoberfest. I mean,
hello.
That's perfect. I remember I had like a brain blast when I thought of that one.
That's a Jimmy Neutron reference for all you weirdos out there.
Any non-millennial.
Yes.
Okay, so then there was a big tie for seventh place. There was You're an Excellent Host, which was about Olympic host cities and Fabergé eggs.
So good.
I thought that one was, next is Best of the Best, but also Bad, ? And that was beauty pageants and Michelin stars, because they're both like rating systems, but also kind of problematic. ?
To those.
Exactly. Next we have The Walls Have Ears, and then in parentheses, and Pinkies. And that was about pinky promise and hand gestures, and also the Great Wall of China.
Of course, clearly.
Of course. Yeah, sometimes it's really hard to connect. Some are easier than others.
You do a really good job.
Thank you. Well, this one was easier to connect. Things Are Getting Hairy. That was Yeti and Famous Hairstyles. Lent itself to that. Although some people might say Famous Hairstyles, you have Harry in the title. Sometimes I give myself some leeway.
Throw this lady a bone, okay? She's working overtime for once in your goddamn life.
And then we have I Now Pronounce You, Monster and Monster, which was Godzilla and Elopement. And then in last place, with 0 votes, thank you very much, was With All Your Heart, but art and heart is in brackets, and that was for Dreamcatchers and Origami.
Okay, nobody voted for that. Why do you hate us?
That one's too sentimental.
Okay, do you guys not have hearts? Well, it's the new year. Now's the chance to like open your heart to things.
Art filled with heart, which is Origami and Dreamcatchers.
It's true. I was also saying, during the time we did this run through the first time without recording, was that Twitter polls give you only a very limited amount of characters to put in the answers. And so I had to get super creative with the emojis that I used. And I thought I did an incredible job. It was actually a lot of fun, but very difficult.
You did. I was impressed. I mean, you did. I pronounce you Monster and Monster. Instead of Monster, you had the little Frankenstein emoji. Yes. Creative.
Oh my God. We are so creative here. Like, you wouldn't even get it.
Some people just don't understand.
The girls
us.
who get it, get it.
Girls who don't. Okay.
So where are we now?
Well, we wanted to do a little wrap up of the previous year.
It's true.
Speaking of our episodes, we were going to talk about some of our favorite topics that we did, that the other person did.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
originally we were
done
supposed
this
to pick.
Before.
We did. I think we did it last year.
Yeah, where we pick our favorite topics from the year from each other, etc. It's a lot of fun. But go ahead.
Well, did you also do your own favorite?
I did.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
I didn't want to
be.
Okay.
No. You're good. Yeah. Okay.
And we were supposed to pick 3, but I ended up picking like 7 for each because I couldn't.
No, I know. I had
down.
I had a really difficult time narrowing it down. We were only supposed to pick 3, but I just was like, these are all great. I want to shout them all out in some way. So do you want to go first?
Well, let's do your topics first. So I'll say my favorites of yours, then you can say your favorites of yours.
Good.
So I do have like my top 3 and then 4 or 5 honorable mentions. So I loved Flea Circus. That was episode 89.
Mm-hmm.
Karaoke, episode 79.
God, right.
And Fabergé Eggs, episode 96. I feel like that one in Flea Circus like stuck with me the most. I think about it most. But then
she
other
goes to
ones,
bed every night and she's like, Fabergé Eggs. It's kind of like,
what would I do if I was in a flea circus? And then other honorable mentions. I really liked the Stamps episode, 84. It was like more interesting than you ever thought Stamps would be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Diane Fossey, 91. Yeah. That was that was researcher who was.
You gotta listen. Issues. You gotta listen. But like that was not just like a problematic ape researcher from the 70s. Shit hits the fan.
It's like Diane. A murder mystery type thing.
Yeah. Surprise.
I also loved Leap Year, which was episode 83 or 86.
Mm-hmm.
Origami, episode 93, because it was very touching. And then Medusa, episode 108. But that one's kind of like, obviously I'm going to like Medusa.
Yes. I knew that you would like Medusa. You hit most of the ones that are on my list. Like,
all right. Tell me your list.
Diane Fossey, Flea Circus, Origami, Fabergé Eggs. Those are all on my list as well. I think Fabergé Eggs was probably my favorite because I just love that time period. I love the Fabergé Eggs in general. They're just so gorgeous, and I feel like I learned a lot. I'm an egghead. You wouldn't get
total egghead.
I also think Flea Circus stuck with me the most as well. It's just I was like, wait. What is in the goddamn hell?
Wait, what?
Okay. And then instead of Leap Year, I picked Daylight Saving Time.
Those are kind of related.
They're related because I did Daylight Saving and then I did something and then I did Leap Year. So they was like very close to each other. So they kind of like piggybacked each other and worked well with each other. And then I also liked the famous Amos topic as well, which it was just one of those topics that I didn't expect to like learn a lot, but you do. And you just keep it in your heart forever.
That was a good topic as well.
Shall we do yours?
You tell me mine.
Okay. I'll tell you my favorite of yours. This was so hard to pick. I think without a doubt, the 2 best from last year, overall, of all of our topics, number 1 is Dolphins and LSD, of course. That is like one of the best topics you have ever done, one of the best topics that has ever been on this podcast. It was early last year, like 71 or 72. If you have not listened to Dolphins and LSD, it's life-changing. And I'm not sure it's a positive life change. It's just changes, the chemicals in your brain change after you listen to that one.
That's the unauthorized boners one, by the way.
Yes.
If you're looking for it.
So it's so good. And then, of course, the Mother Teresa episode is a more serious episode. I think you did an incredible job researching it. And I think everybody just, even if like you're not going to like deep dive Mother Teresa, just listen to Grace's 20-minute rundown just to get like a little taste, like to, figure it all out. So I think those are some of the best episodes we've ever had. And then some good runners up. Of course, Lisa Frank. Bonkers story, and also just near and dear to my millennial heart. And I think about her children's names more often than you think that I would.
Hunter
and Forrest.
And their last name is Green.
Yes, their last name is Green. So like they were named purposely. And then the Tigers, the Lisa Frank Tigers, are named Hunter and Forrest. You just got to listen to the episode, okay? It gets crazy. If you think that's weird, you're in for a surprise because it gets weirder. And then after that, I would say soap operas was great because I think more people need to be respectful of soap operas, and I just love that topic. And then Yeti because the James Stewart tie-in. I was like, what in the goddamn hell is going on here?
I had some of those, but not all of them.
Interesting.
Shockingly. I didn't do the Dolphins and LSD one. That was a really, really good topic, but I feel like it was just, I didn't have to do that much to make it good,
Sure.
It just is a crazy story.
Yes. We got a lot of feedback on that one.
Yes.
Like a lot. Like I think the most people have written to us about that one or said something to us about it. That was also the one we did it right before we were on as guests on Fill Me In.
And we talked about it a lot.
About it a lot on there, and then that prompted other people to listen to it and write to us on Twitter. They're like, "What? Somebody made a meme about that episode." Anyway, it just it lends itself to being a great topic.
Yes, but Mother Teresa was my top one. 71. I just loved researching that because I had done like that. That's one that needs like way more research too than I even did, but it's something that I had kind of knew about before, so I was able to like research even more. And I love like any of those things where you kind of like something. It's kind of like a you're wrong about. Like everyone there's a big misconception about Mother Teresa, and I love stuff like that. If we had more like bandwidth, I would love to do that for like every topic, but obviously. Right. We're not researchers.
We're not. We just do 20-minute rundowns to whet your appetite, okay?
Yes. I also liked Godzilla.
Oh, that's
75.
I was thinking about
surprised you didn't pick that one because I feel like you liked that one.
I love that one. Yeah.
Alligators in the Sewer in New York, episode 87. That one was wild.
Truly, Grace, there were so many good ones from last year. It's hard to like. I was like, okay, she said 3 of each. Okay, I'm like, I'm gonna do 5 of each because I can't just do 3. But if I had done 8. Like those two would have made it. Yeah.
Some other honorable mentions. I really liked Rocky Horror Picture Show 92, just because I really like the Rocky Horror Picture Show, so it was fun to do that and talk about it. The Alamo, episode 94. That was another one kind of similar to Mother Teresa, where it's like different than what you may think. I also thought Olympic Host Cities 96 was really interesting.
Yes,
again,
I think
also different than what you would think.
Yes, I think for that one, that episode was a really strong episode overall for both of us. It was
the Fabergé egg one too,
and Host Cities. It was just a great unit.
96. Go listen if you haven't. And then I also liked the Halloween Traditions Origins 102 because obviously I love Halloween.
Obviously, we had some really good ones last year.
We did. I feel like I was looking through my list. I'm like, man, I started the year off really strong. Like all of my favorite topics from the beginning. But I like my topic today. I feel like sometimes it's nice to take a little break and come back fresh.
Yes. I feel like it's also, I love when a topic surprises you. Like you're like, okay, I'm going to do this week. And then you're like, wait a second. This is a lot crazier than I thought it was. For instance, Diane Fossey. I knew nothing about Diane Fossey other than she was an ape researcher. It completely turned everything on. Like when I started diving into this, I was like, wait, this is a murder story? Okay, let's do this.
Yeah. That was how I felt about Lisa Frank.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, Lisa Frank, that'll be kind of interesting. Then I kept looking into it. I was like, oh my God.
Yes. If any of these sound interesting to you, and for whatever reason you haven't caught what number episode it is, and you have no idea going off of the titles because we purposely make them incomprehensible, please write to us and we will tell you which episodes are which. These are all top tier level stuff.
You can also look at our Instagram because we post pictures on there that have to do with the episodes. So that's like a quicker way to find out. Although I guess it's only the top, you'll only see like one topic. Anyway, make it hard for you.
Yeah, just write to us. We're rather approachable if we need to be. Anyway, that was a great year. It was a good year for topics.
Yeah, that was fun. And
shall we?
Another great year ahead.
Here we go, folks. We're gonna kick it off strong. Shall we get into our hits and shits?
Yes, I don't have too many because
I know
I don't want to
exactly. I don't
go
have too many.
On and on.
I did so many crosswords from like the time we took our break until now, and I was like, I can't go back and do all of them. But I want to start off by saying that a couple weeks ago I mentioned that the American Values Club crossword were, funding a Kickstarter to kind of expand their crossword, like their independent crossword offerings. Well, they've reached their goal, so congratulations to everybody there. Today, the day we're recording, is the last day for you to kind of donate and help them reach their stretch goals. So by the time this airs, you can't give them more money, though I'm sure, I don't know, like, can you write to them on email and be like, can I donate more money? I don't know how that works. Anyway, so congratulations to them. I'm really excited to start doing some of the puzzles. They kind of give out like what are they? The rewards that you get for contributing. Some of them are puzzles, and I've been saving them to do them with Grace. So I'm excited to do them next time we hang out in the flesh. We need an iPad. We need to do them on a Crosslight, I think. So we will report back once we do them. But I just wanted to throw it out there that they have reached their goal. So
Yay.
Congrats.
Must be nice.
Must be nice.
Must be nice to reach a goal.
Must be nice to have a goal, right?
True.
Yeah, so that's how I want to start it off. But I guess I'll just keep going since I'm on a roll here.
Okay, don't stop.
I'm not going to stop. I literally will just go through my topic all the way through. I want to shout out the New Yorker puzzle for being truly like one of my favorite outlets. I love the constructors there. I love what they do. I particularly love their end of year crosswords. From December 24th through the end of the year, the 31st, they run a puzzle every single day, and it is like a 2021 themed puzzle with a specific theme. For instance, like 2021 year in language, 2021 year in science and tech, year in movies, TV, like books, like all that stuff. It's really cool. And so each puzzle is specifically designed with that theme in mind. I don't want to deep dive too much into them because I really encourage people to, one, get the membership, to do them, especially if you like pop culture stuff, if you like contemporary things in your crosswords, not just like archaic fucking trivia. But I will shout out a couple just to give you like a little bit of a taste of like what they offer. So I'll start with the Friday, December 24th, which was the Year in Language by Patrick Berry. I'll just call out 2 clues from that. 18 across, animated image texted as a reply, and a new Merriam-Webster entry of 2021.
Memoji?
And the answer is reaction GIF, which I thought was cool. So that is now in the dictionary. Get over it.
I'm over it.
And then 34 across, husband of a vice president, and a new Merriam-Webster entry of 2021. And the answer is second gentleman. You love to see it.
We do.
And then I'll just do one more. This is from the Sunday, December 26th, New Yorker. This was 2021 Year in Science and Tech by Amy Lucido. Of course, Amy Lucido did the Science and Tech. One across, the opener was just great. Format of Beeple's Every Days, the first of its kind, auctioned at Christie's for short, March 2021. The answer is NFT. The first ever NFT was auctioned at Christie's in March of 2021, and it was called Every Days by Beeple. So that's just interesting because NFTs are like taking over now. And then 17 across, website that announced in August 2021 that it would ban pornography before backpedaling 6 days later.
What, Tumblr?
OnlyFans.
Oh, hello. That's like it's only...
Well, their investors were like, no, we're not doing this. We're not giving you money, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, literally your entire user base are sex workers. So as soon as you stopped like allowing that, then you lost your entire user base. And so then the investors were like, I guess we have to have them back because we invested all this money.
What did they think that it was being used for? I don't know. I'm sure there's like weird stuff for why they did that.
Yeah, who knows? But that's the kind of stuff that you'll see in the New Yorker 2021 Year in Review puzzles. They're great. Do them.
I did the movies one after you told me. It was fun.
Yeah, it's fun. You want to go?
Well, I have a New Year themed puzzle. The Washington Post January 2nd puzzle by Evan Bernholz, Letter of Introduction. At first I was like, I don't understand what this is. At the very top of the puzzle, the first letter of all the across answers was circled and it was happy. But then I kind of put it together. So basically the theme was there were a bunch of across clues and they would be just a letter. So it's letters of introduction. So for example, 24 across just said N and the answer was November 1st because the first letter in November is N.
Okay.
And then 41 across was E and the answer was eye opener because the opener of I, the word, is E.
Okay.
W is world premiere. Y is youth leader. E is Edith Head.
Okay.
A is Arctic front.
God damn.
R is remote starter. And then at first I was like, okay, but why is happy circled? And then I realized that the first letter of all those clues spell out New Year. So happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Evan. Thanks for the great puzzle.
Yeah. Thanks, Evan, for the personalized New Year's message. That was very kind of you.
It felt like you were sitting with me at the breakfast table. What else did I do? The Tuesday, January 4th, New York Times by David Buckspan. The theme was great and very crosswordy. if you like crosswords, if you're into crosswords, then I'm sure you liked seeing this kind of thing. Well, I hope you guys did. I mean, I didn't really look at the reviews for this online, but I'm assuming the cross world liked this, but maybe not. The theme was essentially an optimistic quote. I don't usually like quote or like idiom puzzles where like they have a full quote like spread across like 5 different answers, because I'm like, I usually don't know the quote, and I'm like, okay, like let's move on. But it was an optimistic quote with the revealer being the person who spoke it. And so the first, it was it was like 19 across. Start of an optimistic quote by 57 across. And then 29 across was part 2, 35 across was part 3, 54 across was the end, and then the revealer was 57 across, first puzzle editor of the New York Times. And the answer is Margaret Farrer. Yes, the first ever puzzle editor at the New York Times was a woman.
Suck that, Will Shorts.
Yeah. I am woman. I am whatever that TikTok sound is. Yeah, and she was the editor at the New York Times from 1942 to 1968. And a lot of the modern crossword rules that we have today come from her kind of formalizing crosswords as like a form. As like a thing, a puzzle, which is kind of cool. And then the quote, which spanned across all of those clues or answers that I've already mentioned, was, "You can't think of your troubles while you're solving a crossword. Thanks, Margaret."
Do you think that's true?
No.
I don't know. My troubles are pervasive.
Yeah, no, I think about my troubles specifically when I'm doing crosswords, actually.
Mm-hmm. How much trouble I have getting an answer right. Am I right? Well, there were some good clues in that puzzle.
Yes.
I liked 4 across. Hinders as one style. The answer was cramps.
Mm-hmm.
And then 4 down, foam clog. Croc.
That was so good. And it confused us. I was like, foam clog? Like, what clogs foam?
Yeah.
And then Matt was like, no, it's a clog made of foam. And I was like, what? And he's like, it's a croc. And I'm like, croc showing up in the crossword. You love to see it.
We love Crocs.
We do.
Don't fight us on it.
Do not. I also liked 2 down. Risque costume for a holiday party. And the answer was matching velour tracksuits with iron-on angel wings. No, I'm kidding. The answer was sexy elf, which would be kind of a bold move.
For an office holiday party, yeah.
I guess depending on like what type of office you work at. You know, we could probably get away with not like too sexy, but like, you know, a cute holiday elf. People would not bat an eye.
We could.
Yeah.
What
else you got?
We've done worse.
We've done crazier things, trust me.
I liked the Monday New York Times by Beth Rubin and Trent H. Evans.
Mm-hmm.
This made me laugh. 54 down. Blank Barker, fashion photographer and reality TV judge. And I knew it was Nigel Barker. Shout out to America's Next Top Model.
Yes, of course.
56 down. You'll trip on it if you drop it. Acid. Although I feel like I've seen that before.
It was pretty clever, though. I like that.
And then, shout out to you. 22 down. Forever, in quotes, purchase. And the answer was stamp.
Stamps showing up in the crosswords. Love it. I'll end my hits and shits with the Sunday New York Times by Paolo Pasco from January 2nd. The theme was fun. The puzzle was called color mixing. Essentially, the answers of the puzzle were anagrams of two colors, essentially. So, for example, 21 across was cerise and lavender. Cerise plus lavender. Equals certain baby animals. So you have to anagram those 2 colors to come up with an answer that means certain baby animals. And the answer was reindeer calves.
How did he do that?
I don't know. Another one, 32 across. Coral plus gold equals pet store purchase. And the answer was dog collar. There's a lot more than the ones I'm giving you. I just wanted to highlight a couple. And then this one was 74 across. Rust plus scarlet equals celestial group. And the answer was star cluster. That was fun.
Wow.
Yes.
I'm impressed.
Always impressed by Paolo. And then some other clues that I liked from that puzzle. 1 across, the opener. The opening clue was really fun. Game option represented by a flat palm. The answer is paper. Rock, paper, scissors.
Oh, yes. Duh.
And then I'm going to save my favorite for last. 82 across, dis-tressed, not distressed, dis-tressed. And the answer was bald. So without your tresses, bald. Very nice. And then 7 down, something I learned. Fantasy creature whose name is an anagram of another fantasy creature. So lots of anagrams going on here. The answer was orc, and we see orc a lot to crosswordese. But I didn't realize it was an anagram of another fantasy creature, and that fantasy creature was roc, R-O-C. And I got this from Wikipedia. But a roc is an enormous legendary bird of prey, popular in mythology from the Middle East. And yeah, it appears in like Arabian fairy tales, etc. And yeah, I was like, okay, it's a massive bird. So, you know, the birds from like Lord of the Rings?
Mm-hmm. It's that.
Probably, I've literally done zero research on this, so don't come for me if you're like a Tolkien fiend, but were those massive eagles inspired by the roc? The roc.
Someone's going to be like,
drive, it's about power.
So it'd be like, technically they're actually inspired after the bird native to New Zealand.
Yeah. Okay. It's like, whatever. You're done. Okay. But my favorite from that puzzle was 73 across. Quote, Herc could stop a show. Point him at a monster and you're talking blank. Lyric in Disney's Hercules. And this answer is crosswordese. The answer is SRO, which stands for standing room only. But I didn't realize that was a lyric in
I was
Hercules.
like, wait, what is that lyric?
Yeah, so
no kid would know that.
No kid would know that.
That's for the adults.
It's for the adults. The full lyric reads as such. Herc could stop a show, point him at a monster, and you're talking SRO. And I just love how Paolo can take like crosswordese and make the solving experience fun. Because sometimes like when you have crosswordese, you're like, you have to fill it in because I just needed that and whatever. But I love when constructors find ways to make that solving experience a little bit more enjoyable. So thanks for that.
And Paolo's very good at that.
Very, very much so. So that's what I got.
I'm also done. So we can flip the coin.
All right, I guess it's time to flip the coin, baby. Let's get right to it.
Let's do it.
Okay, I'm flipping the coin now. Heads.
It's you.
I'm going first?
Yeah.
In the new year?
First in the new year.
All right, so first topic of the year is going to be a strong one. Just because I said it will be. I don't know if it'll actually be strong. So up to you guys to decide. But interestingly enough, it appeared in 2 crosswords. So I initially picked it from 1 crossword, and then I was doing a crossword today, and it showed up again, and I'm like, the stars are aligning. So the crossword that I picked it from was this Sunday, December 26th, New Yorker by Amy Lucido, the science and tech one. 7 down, sommelier's asset. And the answer is nose. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then it showed up again in the Wednesday, January 5th New York Times by Damon Golczyński. I'm really sorry about that.
I know that. I mean, there's a lot of vowels in that name.
There's lots of consonants sitting next to each other in a way that I'm like, okay, you're done. With love, of course.
Yeah, sorry, not a lot of vowels in that name is what I mean. Is my sound weird?
No.
Okay.
No. Okay.
Okay.
And that in Damon's puzzle, it was 26 down, sommelier's handout, and the answer was wine list. Okay. So, what in the goddamn hell is a sommelier? Am I right, ladies? Okay. Basically, it is a wine steward.
Mm-hmm.
So from Wikipedia, sommelier is a trained and knowledgeable wine professional, normally working in fine restaurants, who specializes in all aspects of wine service as well as wine and food pairing. Okay? Some people even compare a sommelier to the chef de cuisine. So, like the head chef of a restaurant. Like, they're just as important to a restaurant as the person cooking and curating the food, that's a big honor. I've always thought that. She has always thought that. She actually writes to me about it sometimes. It's one of those, like, late night discussions we have occasionally. And so also sommelier, just like another little excursion into the definition of sommelier. They're a wine expert. They study and practice a range of skills related to wine, and they should have a vast knowledge of wine regions, grape varietals, and wineries. They can tell a customer which year is best for the best vintage, or suggest a wine pairing for a specific dish. They're found mostly in upscale dining restaurant like establishments, And they're essentially the customer's liaison between the menu and the wine cellar. Restaurants that have sommeliers really pride themselves in that fact and usually have an incredible, like, wine cellar. Okay? Mm-hmm. So if a sommelier comes over to your table and you're, like, looking to indulge, like, don't be shy. Chat with them. It's their job to literally curate the wine for your night. So
I could never, because I have no idea what I'm talking about.
That's the whole point of doing the training.
I know, but I feel like you need to know a little bit.
Oh, to talk to the sommelier? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I mean, I can understand. So, yes, there is like a classism and like an elitism to drinking wine, which we'll talk about a very little bit later. But like, I think people can get a little frightened about how to talk to people who know about wine, or going to a fancy restaurant and then they like bring the wine over and they have you smell and taste it before they like pour you out a full glass. You know, like I get that. It's, you know, it's conflicting. Like you want to enjoy yourself, but you also don't want to look like a fool. Trust me, they're not judging you. More people don't know about wine than people that do know about wine. You know what I'm saying?
I don't believe that.
Also, you only live once. Screw it. If the sommelier is talking crap about you in the kitchen, who cares?
No, you're right. You're right.
You're the bigger person.
I don't care what the sommelier thinks about me.
Oh, you hear what I think about you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, in that case, anyway, so a lot of people know what a somm is, right? So I'll either call them a sommelier or a somm. So a lot of people know what they are, or have potentially interacted with one if you've gone to like a nice restaurant, even like lesser, like you've got like these like 3 Michelin star restaurants will have a somm, obviously, but even like, you know, your regular restaurant on the street might have a like somebody on staff who's very knowledgeable about wine. They may or may not be certified in like or mastery of wine. But like you might have interacted with someone who can talk to you about wine. But in recent years, the world of wine and wine stewarding was kind of brought into the limelight, specifically by the 12 documentary called Somm, which followed 4 men like going to get their mastery of wine certification. And then in 2015, there was a show called Uncorked that followed 6 individuals vying for master sommelier as well. So before we get into the current landscape of the sommelier world, we're going to talk about how we have come to have sommeliers at all. There's so much information out there on the somm world. So at first, I'm going to call out a couple of really amazing, like truly amazing articles that I read. This is not an exhaustive list. So if you're interested in my bibliography, just DM me. But these articles would recommend. The first is on My Modern Met by Madeline Mousdakis, called Sommelier History, How Poison Detecting Servants Became Respected Wine Connoisseurs. And then the next is on Vine Pairs. I believe it's called Vine Pairs, V-I-N-E. I don't know if it was pronounced Vine Pairs. The 700-year history of the Court of Master Sommeliers by Nick Hines. Then we have on The New Yorker, What It Takes to Be a Master Sommelier by Bianca Bosker. And then also on Vine Pairs, Diversity and Inclusion Efforts Are Key to the American Wine Industry's Future by Betsy Andrews. And then from the Washington Post, David McIntyre wrote, The wine industry is overwhelmingly white. Now the push for inclusivity is gaining momentum. Pause and rewind if you want to listen to any or read any of those. They're all really good. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to like pause in between because I kind of scattered all the information throughout. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I get it.
She gets it. So working with wine has a long history, but our journey starts in the 14th century. That's the 1300s for anybody out there wondering. So firstly, in the 14th century, the French word sommelier referred to a servant who was in charge of transporting their lord's baggage and choosing table wine for their lord to drink. Not only did they choose the table wine, but they had to taste the wine to make sure it wasn't poisoned. They actually used to wear like an interesting little like necklace that had like a very special like glass type contraption where they would use to like scoop the wine or like pour the wine into and hold it up to light to see if there's poison in it. I don't know how that would work, but
I need one of those.
So do I. I mean, I would actually just wear that in general as like a really cool piece of jewelry or like a trinket on like a mantelpiece. It'd be really cool to have one of those. So that's where the word sommelier comes from. Also in the 13th century, specifically, we're like in 1360s, we've got we're in London now. We've skipped France. We're going to London. In London, they had these fun little things called the 12 Great City of London Livery Companies. And these companies were actually guilds. So I'm sure at some point in your academic career, you've learned about the guilds in London. Grace talked about knitting guilds in Nearest and Dearest, I believe. These guilds essentially would like take care of members the way like a union might. That's like the closest thing that I can kind of relate it to common days is like having some sort of like union for the work that you're in. So members of the like 12 guilds were like a family. They would rely on each other. One of these guilds was called the Worshipful Company of Vintners, which is a word that means wine. And it is established to help normalize the import regulation and sale of wine. And like other guilds, the company was exclusive with membership generally limited to male citizens of the city. And their duty would be, what they did in the guild is more similar to like what a sommelier today does. Like they kind of like curated the wine of the day, like what people drank and had on their table or in their kitchen.
Bougie.
Very much so. And so for hundreds of years, essentially this guild ran the wine trade in London. And so we're going to fast forward to 1953. The Worshipful Company of Vintners and the Wine and Spirits Association partnered together to administer the first exam to award the title, quote, Master of Wine. This first exam was taken by 21 people. 6 of them passed the test and were given the title Master of Wine. Okay. So 2 years later, those 6 people became the heads of the Institute of Masters of Wine. The Masters of Wine included winemakers, buyers, journalists, shippers, academics, and wine educators. What it did not include was members of the wine service industry. But the Masters of Wine soon realized that they actually needed members of the service industry to kind of help peddle their wares, which was the wine itself. So you've got all these like academics and like hoity-toity types, like they're like, we're masters of wine, but like nobody's buying the wine unless like you have someone peddling it to them. And so what they did is they designed an exam to train and educate the service workers to become more knowledgeable in wine, which would then help them sell more wine. Let's see. Like I said, they created an exam. It was in 1969. The first exam was in 1969 at the Vintners Hall in London, and it was designed to, quote, encourage sommeliers to become professional and to study, end quote. The first Master Sommelier exam took place in 69, and it was administered by what is now called the Court of Master Sommeliers, also known as CMS. It's just so pretentious. There are other organizations offering mastery of wine courses and certification, but it's widely acknowledged that CMS is the most distinguished of those organizations, and it's
don't even bother with the others.
Don't even bother. So yeah, the Master Sommelier exam was introduced in 69, and it went beyond like factual knowledge, and it tested the applicant's service abilities and blind taste testing. That's the big one, is the service edition and the blind taste testing. And by service, it's like literally how you interact with the customer and how you pour the wine, how you show them the wine, how you remove the foil, how you take out the cork.
Stressing me out just thinking about it.
It's kind of stressful. I mean, just imagine, you're like, okay, I'm just here to pour your goddamn wine. And then they're like, you removed the foil before you got to the table. Like, that's literally the shit they were worried about. I'm like, okay, relax. Anyway, so 1977, we're keeping moving. The Court of Master Sommeliers had evolved into an internationally recognized organization, but they still had a problem. The test they'd created was too hard, and very few people were getting entry to the court. I hate this. It's so pretentious. So to solve the problem, they added different levels of certification, and we'll talk more about them in detail in a second. So essentially, the highest distinction offered by CMS is the Master Sommelier Diploma, and it is so difficult to achieve that only 8% of test takers pass. To give you some context, in the year of our Lord 2020, well, this was from 2020, most of these numbers, there were only 269 people worldwide with the title of Master Sommelier.
Damn.
172 of them are American.
Okay. Seems suspicious.
Seems suspicious. Okay, that's suspicious. That's weird. Yeah. Like I mentioned before, there are many ways to become certified in the mastery of wine, but we're going to focus just on CMS for this episode, and we're going to talk specifically about the CMS exam. So what's the exam like? For those of you who have not seen Somm or Uncorked, I would literally, please go watch them. They're so interesting, and it gives you kind of like a behind-the-scenes look of what it is like to prepare for this kind of exam. And it's not just like buying wine at your local wine store and bringing it home and, drinking it and liking it and enjoying the flavor and taking a wine tasting here and there and learning about wine tasting. No, it's insane. It costs thousands and thousands of dollars to become a master sommelier. And the type of wine, tastings that they're doing is they're tasting and then they spit it out and then they go through the whole profile. They talk about what side of the hill and the soil that the grapes were grown on and what season it was grown on and was there rain that season.
How? I don't understand.
It's crazy. And if you're at all interested in that kind of world or just that ability and how it's developed, watch either of those two. I love Somm. I believe there's a second Somm Part 2 or something if you're interested in that. It's really interesting. Anyway, but let's talk about the process that these people in Uncorked and Somm are going through. There are levels to becoming a master sommelier. The first level is beginner level. So basically you're working in a tasting room. You want to impress your friends. You're learning a little bit about wine. You're having a good time. And you kind of feel confident about your knowledge of wine. That's level 1. That's your casual wine lover.
Mm-hmm.
The certified level is the next step up. So you feel confident working in a wine bar, a restaurant, or a wine store. You teach your friends and associates and then organize your own tastings. That's level 2. That's when you're certified. And then you have industry experience pro. That's level 3. You've worked in wine for a while. You know how things work. You can command a salary as a sommelier. You can run a wine list, open a restaurant, and educate students about wine. And then there's mastery. It's a level that takes up to 10,000 hours of deliberate practice to achieve. And then you go on to teach others who are interested in becoming a master.
Damn.
10,000 hours of no, I'm sorry.
Of drinking wine?
They don't even drink it. Most of the time they spit it out. They have to because you'll get drunk.
Otherwise they'd be drunk.
Yeah, could you imagine? I'd be like, well, I couldn't spit it. It seems wasteful.
It's I don't know. Kind of tastes like it has grapes in it.
Exactly. So the Court of Master Sommeliers program is service-oriented, and it's for wine professionals in the industry with intentions of working as a somm at a restaurant or some other comparable venue. The first level is the introductory course. It costs approximately $700. These are based on 2020 figures.
Mm-hmm.
So the time to prepare for this, think of this level as just an introduction. It's an umbrella of information. It includes common terminology, wine regions, grape varietals, not to mention spirits, beers, and sake. If you get 60% or more of the questions correct on the exam, then you pass. They recommend having a minimum of 3 years in the beverage industry before you take this introductory course, but it's not required. The actual course itself is fast-paced. It's 2 days with tasting and theory lectures, followed by a multiple-choice exam. And it includes an introductory level into the tasting method. So that's level 1.
Mm-hmm.
Level 2 is certified sommelier examination. It costs about $600. The CMS recommends 1 year of preparation between taking the introductory course and taking the certified course. Level 2 explores things more deeply, building on your knowledge from level 1. You'll need to prepare for this exam on your own. So they don't offer it's not like a 10-week course and then you take an exam. It's
Mm-hmm.
You prepare it for a year on your own and then you show up and take the exam. Okay. The next level is the certified, the next level is, hold on. We're still in level 2. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
The exam for level 2 is 1 day, and it puts, to examination your knowledge on theory, tasting, and service skills. To pass this level, you must complete all 3 of the following exams with at least 60% correct. The first is tasting. You are given 30 minutes to blind taste 4 wines, 2 red and 2 white. Then you have a 45-question theory exam. This includes general questions on wine and being a somm. And then you have service, which is the first exam with a service section, and CMS recommends spending time in the industry before tackling the exam. So, yeah, like how do you serve wine at a table, for instance, would be on the exam.
They have like study guides for this thing?
They have like resources for sure, but most of it is practical and like self-study, which is more bonkers to me. So then you have level 3, which is the advanced sommelier, which is approximately a $1,200 course. CMS recommends a year between passing your certified class, level 2, and taking the advanced program. Additionally, they do require you have 2 years of industry experience before you're eligible to take the course. So you want to find yourself a mentor that knows more than you, let them teach you like their tips and tricks. The exam is like a real commitment and requires a 60% pass rate on each of the following sections: theory, tasting, and service. And then we get to the big boy, level 4, master sommelier, which is approximately $1,800 a course. Time to prepare, it takes approximately 3+ years from the completion of level 3 to take the master somm class. And this exam includes a oral theory exam, which is a 55-minute verbal exam about the responsibilities of a sommelier. Then you have your tasting exam, which is 6 wines. You have to describe and identify 6 different types of wine successfully. And then you have your wine service exam, which is prepare and present a proper wine service, including glassware, decanting, and answering customer questions. And during this part, like, you're serving other master somms who will intentionally ask you to do bonkers things. For instance, they're being served a meal and they're like, I want to drink rosé with everything tonight, which is untraditional. You don't drink rosé technically with everything that's being served on a menu. You technically wouldn't necessarily drink rosé with your dinner. You know, whites are for this and reds are for that, and so on and so forth. But if you have a picky customer who's like, I'm drinking rosé only tonight, then this person taking the Master Somm course has to be like, okay, which rosés can I pair with this? And this fucking crazy guy is like doing this and that. So you have to like think on your feet and be able to like work with the customers.
I'm out. It's like customer service and then also extreme knowledge.
Yes, at the same time. You're still working in the food service industry. Don't forget it. Okay, so each year, approximately 200 sommeliers from around the world submit themselves for the Master Sommelier exam. And like I said before, they have an 8% success rate or pass rate. So that's approximately 16 people a year would pass.
Wow.
Bonkers. Okay, so let's just pretend that you've passed the exam. Okay? What do you do now? Most sommeliers work in some element of the food service industry, specifically in the wine sector. This is true for those studying to take the exam as well. Like, you have to be in the industry to take the Master Somm course. Some somms will work like on the floor in restaurants. Like, they will be the somm at a restaurant and like be the person that comes over and is like, hey, are you looking at the wine menu? What can I do? Like, can I bring something for you to taste? Other somms will work for vineyards specifically or distributors, because there's people that are like, they work for a distributor and they kind of like curate various wine lists across the country, or curate, this is the wine selection for Total Wine, this is the wine section for this liquor store, and so on and so forth. You can still be a wine expert without taking the mastery courses. So if you're interested in wine, but you don't have the money, or like you don't want to be involved in that kind of institution for various reasons, which we are about to discuss, you don't have to. And if you want to be certified, you do not have to take CMS's course. There's another one, it's like WSET or something. That's another popular one. But even so, you can just be super knowledgeable and work at like a local, you know, store, maybe not necessarily a 3 Michelin star restaurant, but you can still work in wine without having this certification. But if you do have your Master Sommelier certification, especially from CMS, your salary will show it. So, you know, there are 3 levels of certification from CMS. Level 1 is the lowest offered, typically make roughly around $55,000 a year. Advanced sommeliers will make a median of $87,000 a year, and master sommeliers make a median of $164,000 a year. And that really just depends on your region and like your previous experience. There are celebrity sommeliers too. So like if you become a celebrity like on Instagram or something, you might get paid more.
I feel like that's obviously a lot of money, but for something that only like 16 people do a year, it doesn't really seem like, you think it would be more than that. You
would think it would be more than that. And even though it's like their pass rate is 8%, I'm like, in the 40, 50 years that this has been around, there's only 269 master sommeliers.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. So few people actually pass. And you can take the exam as many times as you want. When I was watching Somm, I think one of them was like, or maybe it was Uncorked, someone had taken it like 10 times or something and had failed every time.
Oh my God.
At that point, I mean, I don't know.
Cut your losses.
God, yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about diversity in the Somm field. This is kind of like how I'm going to wrap this up.
Mm-hmm.
So like I've said before, films and shows like Somm and Uncorked, and also just like cooking shows in general, I think, have brought the culinary world and the wine world more into the limelight, but it had also kind of blue-collared it a little bit, or like made it feel less stuffy. You know, I feel like the culinary world or fine dining might have felt like, oh, it's for rich white people. Like, you can't do it. It's too expensive. But, you know, we're bringing it to the table now with having TV shows about fine dining or like shows about being a sommelier. It's like, it seems a little bit more accessible. It's not just for blue bloods anymore, which I think is really interesting. That being said, we got a long way to go. We have a very long way to go. The world of wine and food service is still confronting their lack of diversity. Earlier, I mentioned that there are 269 people worldwide who are master sommeliers, 172 of which are American. Of those 172 Americans, only 28 are women.
Wow.
Okay? And so then of those numbers, I couldn't find no definitive number or answer to how many BIPOC somms there are. Not to mention Black, Indigenous, people of color, women sommeliers. Those numbers do not exist because they're not required to like keep tally of who is a somm, like ethnic, whatever, or, you know, any of that. And I'm like, they're not required to keep records of this? This is bonkers to me. Anyway, so of the 28 American women, how many are Black, Indigenous, or any other, you know, ethnicity? Cannot find that answer. But just take a guess. Just like feel it out in your heart and think like, how much diversity is there really? There's not. And there's a plethora of reasons why there is such little diversity in the world of master somms. And it begins really with like the lowest level, the consumer. There are some really great articles out there. I want to like tell you all about them, but I'm going to focus on this little quote. So Julia Connie is a Washington, D.C. and Houston, Texas-based wine writer, wine educator, speaker, and consultant, and a contributing editor at Vine Pair. She told the Washington Post that she routinely encounters microaggressions from winery staff, retailers, and other consumers. Quote, "It's the person following you around the store, the tasting room staff who assume you know nothing about wine, or the winemaker at a tasting who ignores you while devoting attention to white guests," she said. At a Napa Valley tasting room last year, she says another customer turned to her and said, quote, "I didn't know you people drink wine," end quote.
Oh my God. What's wrong with people?
What is wrong with people? And also, if this is the world of wine, like if this is how the world of wine welcomes people, like why would you even want to be invited? Or like why would you even want to attend, right?
Yeah.
Coney has an incredible blog post on her website titled, "Your Wine Glass Ceiling is My Wine Glass Box," an open letter to Karen McNeil and the wine industry, and it's about the lack of visibility of women of color in wine. We'll try to remember to link this in our episode description, but you should definitely check it out. In the same article on the Washington Post, they go on to discuss some of the other barriers of entry into the wine world. Quote, "A major entry obstacle for people of color interested in the wine profession is money. It is expensive to learn about wine, from tasting rare, famous bottlings to taking classes for professional certifications. Aspiring winemakers and other wine professionals build their resume by traveling the world and working harvests in France and elsewhere. Opportunity comes with money," end quote. So there's just not like a lot of opportunity, right? And if there is an opportunity, it costs you a lot of money.
Well, there's a huge barrier to entry. I mean, not that many people have $1,800 just to spend multiple years to try and take the test.
Exactly. So in 2020, with the wave of Me Too and BLM, like it kind of spurred the conversation of, or sparked a conversation for diversity. I mean, clearly, right? In not just the wine world, but like everywhere. But because of it was in the wine world, and it kind of just like a lot of like diversity boards and scholarship opportunities for marginalized groups were breaking out in the wine world because of what was happening in the world at large. So I'm just going to list off a couple of these like diversity opportunities that have kind of come up because of these discussions. Diversity in wine and spirits is one. Then we have the Roots Fund, Wine Unify, Be the Change, Napa Valley Vintners, the Association of African American Vintners, Cal Poly, the Willamette Valley Winery Association, and Black Wine Professionals, which was actually founded by Julia Coney, who we talked about a little bit ago. But of course, there's still work to be done. CMS claims to be working on their diversity measures, but how much have they truly done? So I got this info from a New York Times article called Prestigious Wine Organization Drops Use of Term Master by Christina Morales. So in the wake of the BLM protesters in 2020, the Court of Master Sommeliers released a statement saying they wanted to play a part in diversifying the wine industry in the wake of nationwide unrest and conversations about institutional racism prompted by the killing of George Floyd. Quote, "It has been common to use the term master with someone's last name as a title for master sommeliers," Devin Brogley, the chair of CMS's board of directors, said in an email. In the future, the organization will cease the use of the singular term use in favor of the full term master sommelier. So if you or I had previously become master sommeliers and they were talking about us, whether it be in programming or like at a talk or like even just out and about or at the test site, they would say Master Rowan, Master Topinka, which is just
it's weird.
A little strange, right? Some other proposed solutions from the board included establishing a committee that would recommend a course on implicit bias training and pursue paths to decrease or to increase diversity, becoming more involved with a tuition-free wine education program, and creating more scholarship opportunities. However, one of the prominent Black master sommeliers, like at this revelation, resigned. He wrote a blog post about it on Medium. You can find it there, saying that these conversations and these initiatives are a little too late. And it's the question of you're only doing it because something prompted you to do it, not because there's like a genuine interest in changing. There's a lot of criticism about CMS in general being mostly about upholding the prestige of the organization. We talked a little bit about this when we talked about Michelin Star, instead of, trying to foster education and growth and like helping tons of people learn and explore wine. All they want to do is be prestigious and kind of like this pedestal that nobody can obtain. Like they kind of like hold so much pride in only 8% of people who take the test pass. It's like, then make it like more accessible to people. 1, 2, like, is it really that exciting when nobody can pass your test? Like, do you really not want anybody to know anything about wine? Like, yes, you want it to be competitive, but to me, it just seems like a money grab. Like, they can take the test as many times as they want. So you're getting like 200 people every year spending at least $1,800 on the test. Only 16 of them pass, and then the people that don't pass take the test again the next year, and again the next year, and again the next year.
Yeah.
How much are you actually doing for wine? I mean, obviously, I'm not in the wine industry. I'm not in the wine community at all. But these are questions that should be raised, right? And there's literally so much going on with CMS. Like, there was a sexual harassment and scandal with some of the master sommeliers harassing women. There was a whole year where the test was completely annulled because there was a cheating scandal. So everybody that took the test that year failed, even if they didn't cheat. And they had spent the money and, like, they didn't get the money back. It was like a whole scandal. Anyway, there's lots of drama that I couldn't get into.
Wine drama. Makes sense.
Wine drama. But,
wild.
Sommelier, I guess.
So I probably won't become a sommelier then.
I'm sorry to dash your hopes.
That's the only reason why.
Yeah. Would recommend this Somm movie, though. Really interesting. And it makes me want a glass of wine, to be honest.
I know. I wish I enjoyed wine more because I feel like it looks so cool to like drink a glass every night. But then I also feel like is this weird like thing now where our society has just very like normalized drinking alcohol every day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, there are people that swear by a glass of red wine every night.
Yeah.
I don't know the science behind it, to be completely frank with you. I don't personally do that. I do like red wine, though.
I don't. I have a LaCroix every night. Or Coca-Cola. No, I don't have a Coca-Cola every night. I wish.
I have a LaCroix right now.
Water.
I have an orange LaCroix, which basically takes the place of my craving for chochicholas, Coca-Colas. Okay? It does the job. Not fully, but it does at least do some part of the job. That's it, and that's all.
We could be LaCroix sommeliers. Sparkling water.
Don't even tempt me with a good time.
My topic comes from the Wednesday, January 5th New York Times by Damon Kolzinski. 18 across. Medium at Madame Tussaud's.
Wax? Madame Tussaud.
Yes.
Is it Tussaud? What was Tussaud?
Well, it's spelled Tussauds, but it's pronounced Tussaud, supposedly, in French. But excuse me if I say it wrong. I don't know. It originated in Britain, so...
Excuse her, French. Okay.
I'm not sure, how they pronounce it
All
there.
of our Brit listeners out there, we know you exist. Please tell us if it's Tussaud or Tussauds. Does it matter? Who cares? It's just language, am I right?
When you're right, you're right. So, speaking of Madame Tussaud, it's the famous wax museum. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's Britain's second most popular paid tourist attraction after the Tower of London. So it's a big deal over there. But to find the beginnings, we have to go to France.
Okay.
I got most of my information from an article called on grunge.com called How Madame Tussaud Built an Empire Out of Wax by Becky Robbins. So it all started with a girl named Marie Grossholtz, born in Strasbourg, France in 1761. And most of what we know about her, this is Madame Tussaud, comes from her own memoirs that she dictated to her friend when she was 80, but she was also known for embellishing a lot. So we don't really know, we don't know what's true, what's not. So everything's kind of questionable. Take everything with a grain of salt. But this is the general, I don't know, what people think her life was like. So her father, Joseph, was a public executioner. It was a family business. It was the same as being a doctor or whatever, got passed down. So sucks if that's your family business. But he died a couple months before Marie was born. She never met him, but some wonder if she kind of inherited his fascination for blood and gore, because as you'll see, she did a lot of wax figures of severed heads and stuff and people getting beheaded.
Okay.
So her mother, who was now widowed and she had this newborn child, she moved to Switzerland with Marie, where she worked as a housekeeper for Dr. Philippe Curtius.
As one does.
Yes. And Curtius was an anatomist, and he became well known for creating wax replicas of the human body for teaching purposes.
Okay.
So that's kind of how it started. Curtius ended up being an uncle to Marie, and she eventually became his apprentice. He moved away from anatomy and started doing portraits, and Marie and her mom actually moved with him to Paris, where he started showing off his art. And the upper class loved all the stuff he was doing. So Marie at a young age was kind of brushing elbows with famous people like Voltaire. And so from 1780 until the French Revolution in 1789, Marie created some of her most famous portraits. She was 16 when she created her first wax figure, and it was Voltaire. But she also made Jean-Jacques Rousseau and our friend, Benny Franks.
Benny Franks makes his first appearance of 2022 in wax form, no less. Good for him.
Just how we like him.
Just how we like him.
In her memoirs, she claimed that she was hired to teach Louis XVI's sister how to do candle or votive making, and she was invited to live at Versailles for 9 years. So
it all comes together. It all comes together.
But there's no contemporary evidence of this. But she claims that she was very involved with their family, and she was privy to conversations between Louis and members of his court.
Okay, good for her.
So who knows? Then came the French Revolution in 1789, and according to some reports, days before the revolution, an angry mob descended on Paris, and they wanted royal heads to, put on pikes and walk around the city. But since real heads were kind of hard to find, they went and took Curtius and Marie's collection and decapitated Jacques Necker and the Duc d'Orléans to parade their severed wax heads around during the protest march.
Truly, truly love that, actually.
Yeah. But the revolutionaries decided that all of her hobnobbing with royals and upper class made Marie a royal sympathizer, so they threw her in jail in a dungeon, and they made her shave her head, and they were like, you're going to get executed. So, get ready. But while in prison, she shared a cell with Josephine de Beauharnais, which is Napoleon Bonaparte's wife, and they became good friends, and later Josephine convinced her husband to pose for Marie. So that's like an interesting little side tidbit there, if that's true. If it's not, I don't know. But you can probably guess that she wasn't beheaded then. Some people decided that her skills could be useful, and they saved her from the guillotine, and she was employed as a death masker, which is someone who makes face and full body casts of the revolution's famous victims like Louis XVI, Marie Antoinette, and Robespierre, to name a few. But remember, she like kind of was friends with all of these people. Supposedly, if she lived at Versailles, she knew these people, and then she had to go make their death masks.
Oh my god, this
sounds
is
horrible.
So up my alley.
And there's so many stories about her that she would like go through heads at a beheading to find like the most grotesque one, that people would like roll them over to her house, but I don't know if any of that's true.
But it sounds like, I mean, the French Revolution was excruciatingly violent in a way that like I don't think a lot of people realize. Like, they were killing everyone.
That comes up later. So, in 1795, she married Francois Tussaud and had 3 kids. One of them died as a young baby, but after 5 years, she took her oldest son and her wax collection to the British Isles, and she never saw her husband again.
Good for her.
Partly because the Napoleonic Wars made it difficult to return to France, but also because supposedly he was a deadbeat and she just didn't like him very much.
Good for her.
But she kept his last name, Tussaud, and that's where the Madame Tussaud Museum name comes from. So, seems kind of unfair. And if you're wondering about her youngest son, who she left behind, he wouldn't see his mom until 20 years later, after his dad and grandma both died. So, I don't know what was going on there.
Family troubles.
Yes. But nevertheless, she took her macabre collection of severed heads, wax murderers, guillotines, and iron maidens, which fake replicas, of course, if you listen to our medieval torture device episode. Yep. Iron Maidens were never actually used. They were just put in like these types of museums because people liked really gory stuff. And she toured around the UK. And Britain was obsessed with like all things French at the time. So it was like a big deal to see these actual life-size, because the wax figures are like true to the size of the person too. Life-size like replicas of these French figures that they had heard about. You know, it's not like there was photography at the time.
Right, or like
so
TikTok.
This was like exactly. So she did so well that she was able to open a permanent museum at Baker Street in London.
Amazing.
So, did people care about the lifelike wax models of Marie Antoinette and Louis XVI? Not really. If Marie learned anything from the French Revolution, it's that people like gore and death. So she created the Chamber of Horrors, which was separate from the rest of the more tame exhibits, and this had Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette's severed heads, as well as wax models of criminals, crime scene dioramas, and real artifacts like the pram police used to collect and transport dismembered victims of a famous 1890 murder. So it was extremely popular, and it's still around today, the Chamber of Horrors, but they've added live actors who jump out at you and scare you.
No, thank you. Unsubscribe.
Yeah.
Unsubscribe. Grace would love that. I would not.
I would. In 1925, there was a fire that took out a lot of the museum. You know, obviously fire in a wax museum. And then in 1940, it was struck by a German bomb during the London Blitz. It was eventually rebuilt and restored, and several other locations opened up around the world, which we'll talk a little bit about those later. But as for Marie Tussaud herself, did she die a horrible, gruesome death since she was kind of always surrounded by it? No, she died peacefully in her sleep.
Good for her.
She died in 1850, which is just as mass market photography was emerging. So an article I read said it was like apt, basically, because her memory is preserved only in wax. Like, there's no photos of her, but there are a bunch of wax replicas of her.
Weird.
So there is a wax portrait she made of herself in 1842 that's on display at the London Museum, which is the original one. And there are other figures made of her, but that's the only one that she made of herself. Okay. And several of Tussaud's actual creations have survived, including the death masks from the French Revolution, the French royal family, and Benny Frank's.
Oh, thank God. Have you seen a picture of it?
Yes.
We have to put Mr. Benji Franksies on the IG.
One of the most... We will, of course. One of the most famous replicas of Marie Tussaud that she didn't do, someone else did of her, is her holding up. It looks like a severed head of Benjamin Franklin, although he was never,
Obviously,
decapitated. Yeah. But I don't know why. It's like she's building him. I don't know what it's supposed to be, but that's like one of the most famous ones of her. So her son, then his son, and then his son took over being chief artist of the exhibit. Until 2005, it was sold to Dubai International Capital for $1.5 billion US. And in 2007, it was purchased by the Blackstone Group for $1.9 billion US.
Oh my God.
And this was when the name changed. It used to be Madame... Okay, I'm going to have to say it with the D. It used to be Madame Tussauds with an apostrophe S, like a possessive. But when it got bought by the Blackstone Group, they were like, well, she doesn't own it anymore. So it's just going to be Madame Tussauds with an S, as if it's plural. Even though in French, they don't even really use those.
Okay, makes no sense.
If you've ever wondered, like, how come sometimes it's with an apostrophe, sometimes it's not?
Right.
That's why.
Okay.
So let's hear some fun facts from artfacts.com. There are 24 locations worldwide, including 4 in China, 1 in Hong Kong, 1 in India, Tokyo, Singapore, Thailand, Amsterdam, Berlin. There's 2 in the UK, 1 in Istanbul, Prague, Vienna, Hollywood, Las Vegas, Nashville, New York City, Orlando, San Francisco, Washington, D.C., and 1 in Sydney, Australia.
Bonkers. Do you imagine being Madame Tussaud and like resurrecting her from the dead and be like, look at this, and she'd be like, what in the goddamn hell are you people even talking about? She had no idea. She did the death masks of Miss Marie and Mr. Louis. And now she's
you can go see like Kylie Jenner.
And like, Will Smith and BTS and like, what the...
So some interesting stories. In 2008, a retired policeman known only as Frank L. went to the museum in Berlin and tackled wax Hitler, and he pulled his head off. And everyone there was fine with it.
Amazing.
But the museum returned it back a few weeks later. So it's kind of like, why? I mean, they do a lot of like historical figures, and they're not...
Wait, is the Hitler one still there?
All good. Yes.
Okay.
I know. Yeah. I mean, some people have an issue with that.
Yeah.
And I totally get why. There is a lot of bad people who also have wax figures made after them. Yeah. I guess I don't know if it's like you can go take pictures with them. I feel like that's weird.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't know. In 2009, a man went to the museum in Times Square and knocked over the statue of P. Diddy and started yelling at it and stomping on his head, then fled on foot. And I don't know if he was ever caught. Every statue is made 2% bigger than the real person because it shrinks a bit during the process. So once it's on display, it should be the perfect size.
Okay.
It takes a long time to get the measurements for molding. It takes days, and over 500 measurements are taken. If the person is dead, they use 100 photographs of them. But interestingly, the hands aren't sculpted. They are actual casts of the person's hands.
So I was wondering if they like bring the people in and they're like, we're going to make a wax figure of you. Oh my God.
No, they do bring them in and do all the measurements and then do their hands. The process takes about 4 months and uses 2,400 pounds of wax before it's ready to be displayed, and it costs $300,000 to do it all.
Oh my God.
But fun fact, the measurements of the celebrities are kept confidential.
Good. That's very nice.
I mean, they have to measure everything. They measure, like, how far your nose is from your...
Imagine being the person that does the measurements and, like, I don't know, Barack Obama walks in or something, like, who's a big-time celebrity, like Shakira. I don't know. I feel like...
Barack Obama would make me nervous.
Make me sweat a little.
Some people have declined to have a statue made, including Mother Teresa.
Okay, red flag.
She was too busy hanging out with her donors.
Yeah.
The statues need a lot of maintenance, so every day they are thoroughly checked, and the hair is like washed frequently, and the makeup is touched up frequently.
Thanks, I hate it.
Yeah, kind of weird. The smallest figure ever made is Tinkerbell.
Cute.
So they're not always like real people. Yeah. If you want to learn more about Marie Tussaud, there's a popular book that came out a few years ago based on her life called Little by Edward Carey. It was popular. And it was called Little because she also was very short. I will link the NPR article about it because it's interesting. I'll link it in the description. But Carrie had worked at the London Museum and became fascinated with Madame Tussaud and the book is technically fiction since no one knows how much of her like self-proclaimed story is true. But I'm going to end with a quote from Carey where he talks about the original London Museum and how it was like the French Revolution brought to life. He's talking about her first sculpture, the one of Voltaire. Quote, "He was a waxwork that she made when she was very young, and it was just amazing. Voltaire's toothless grin as an old man, he looked like a monkey. It's an incredible face, and they have a different spirit because she was touching history. She knew these people."
It's just, I had no idea that it had origins in the French Revolution. That is so interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I've always skipped wax museums because I always thought it was just a tourist trap, but now I kind of want to go to the one in London, and I think if you're really interested in the French Revolution, it would be cool to go to the one in London.
Yes, exactly. When I was in London, when I was in high school, we had, we were like, okay, we can either do this thing or we can do Madame Tussauds. And we decided to not do Madame Tussauds because I was like, it's a tourist trap. And like, in a way it is now. Like, obviously, it's a multi-billion-dollar business. But now that I know the really interesting history, and will I get to see Benny Franks while I'm in London? Okay.
Well, it's such an art too, like how realistic they look. It's so crazy.
Right. And to think like how much money and time, and they actually bring the celebrities in to like do the measurements. That's really, really cool. Okay. See you post-pandemic in front of Madame. Meet me at Madame Tussauds.
We're going. Meet me at the Chamber of Horrors in Madame Tussauds.
Sorry,
you have to go in there. You have to go in there if you want to see the French Revolution. I think. Like, all the decapitated heads and stuff are in there. So.
No!
You have to.
I refuse.
I thought you cared about the French Revolution. You don't care at all.
Oh, no. Well, we'll see if I care in 2 years or so. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
We'll circle back.
We'll let you know. We'll obviously report back here as soon as we see the death masks of Louis and Miss Marie and Benny Franks and not the death mask of
I don't know if she has a death mask of Benny Franks.
Yeah. Well, we'll see Benny. It's just Mr. Ben.
Yeah.
Benji, if you will, for those close to him. So wow. Okay. Good luck with the title for this one, I guess.
Yeah, thanks. I'll work on that. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Waxy wineries. There you go.
Wax on, wax off.
Nice.
That has nothing to do with wine. I have to workshop
workshopping.
Yeah, I guess you'll know if you're listening to this what it's called. Yes. If you like the title, you can tell us on Twitter at the Good Eve Girls.
Or Instagram at the Good Evening Girls. Come over and see pictures of Benjamin Franklin's wax booty.
Yes, please. Well, his butt's not in it.
Then why are we even showing it?
They're all anatomically correct.
They are.
No, they're not.
Sign into our YouTube to look at our facial expressions. What else? Oh, we have TikTok. The Good Eve Girls on TikTok.
Yeah.
Come over there. Say hey. But I think Twitter's really important, so you can hang out with Grace's polls. Okay?
Yes.
So
come to Twitter.
Come on
over.
We
need you there.
And until next time, please make sure you keep curious out there, especially in the year of our Lord 2022. This is your year. Grab it by the horns. Ask questions. Never stop searching. That is my advice to you this year.
Wow, that's so inspiring.
Thank you.
All right, well.
She says, okay, let's
go.
I
guess, yeah, we'll see you next week.
Okay. That's it, and that's all. Bye, folks. Bye.
Bye.